You can have the best knife, the warmest shelter, and enough food to last weeks, and still fail in the wilderness. Because the real battle of survival isn't always against cold, hunger, or predators. It's against your own mind. Today, we're diving into extreme isolation survival. Why some people mentally crumble when they're completely alone, and why others come out stronger, clearer, and unbelievably resilient. Imagine this: no phone, no noise of traffic, no messages or notifications, just endless trees, blowing wind, your heartbeat, and your thoughts. For many people, that silence is louder than any scream. Isolation strips away distraction, and when it does, your mind brings forward fear, regret, doubt, and every insecurity you've avoided. That's why some people break, but there's another side to the story. Because isolation can also forge unbreakable survivors. 1. What isolation actually does to your brain. Extended isolation isn't just being alone. Your brain is wired for social connection. When the wilderness removes human interaction, your mind starts reacting in 3 major ways. Your brain goes into hyper-alert mode. Every sound becomes danger. Every shadow feels like a predator. This increases cortisol, the stress hormone, and that constant stress wears people down fast. 2. Time distortion. Minutes feel like hours. Days blur together. Without routines and human anchors, your brain, well, it can really lose track of time, and that can trigger panic, confusion, and even hopelessness. Inner dialogue gets louder. Silence forces you to hear yourself. Old trauma, guilt, and self-criticism surface. In isolation, the greatest enemy for many people is not nature. It is the unfiltered voice in their own head. This is when some people mentally snap, not because they're weak, but because isolation removes every mental crutch they once used. So why do some people fail in extreme isolation while others survive? Here are the key psychological traps. Catastrophic thinking. I'm going to die here. I'll never be found. Once the mind locks into these doom loops, the body follows. Energy drops, decision-making collapses, and survival actions just stop. Loss of purpose. When you stop having a why, you stop fighting. People who break often shift from "how do I survive" to "what's the point?" Identity collapse. Many people define themselves by relationships, jobs, or roles. Isolation removes all of that, and what's left can feel empty, or, honestly, even frightening. This leads to panic, impulsive moves, bad decisions, and in the wilderness, one bad decision is all it takes. Now here comes the powerful part, why others endure isolation and, even grow stronger. Survivors do something different. First, they create purpose, and honestly, it can be simple. Stay alive until morning, find water before noon, or maybe signal once per hour. Purpose really stabilizes the mind. Next, they control the inner voice. Instead of thinking "I'm doomed," they say, "Okay, breathe. What's the next step?" Self-talk becomes a tool instead of a torment, and then they accept reality instead of fighting it. The moment you stop resisting isolation and say, "I am here. Now what can I do?" your brain shifts from panic mode to problem-solving mode. They also build routine: fire, water, shelter, food, rest, and then repeat. Routine anchors the mind and, prevents mental spirals. And finally, they stay curious instead of terrified. They observe nature, track weather signs, study animals, and explore terrain. Curiosity replaces fear with focus, and that focus, honestly, keeps you alive. Practical survival psychology tools. If you ever face isolation, whether it's the wilderness, the ocean, snow, or the desert, these mental strategies really matter just as much as any knife or rope. First, break time into small chunks. Don't think weeks alone. Instead, think survive the next hour. Next, talk to yourself out loud. It grounds your thoughts and keeps panic from looping silently in your head. Third, move your body. Motion fights fear, while stillness feeds it. Even something as simple as stacking wood can reset your brain chemistry. Fourth, create symbols of hope. Maybe it's a carved stick, a marked calendar on bark, a prayer, or a goal. Anything that says, "I'm still here." So accept fear, but don't feed it. The goal isn't to be fearless. It's to feel fear and act anyway. And here's the truth about isolation. The real message is this: isolation doesn't just reveal who you are. It reveals what you haven't faced yet. Some people break because isolation removes distraction and forces confrontation with themselves. Others survive because they learn to meet themselves with courage instead of fear. And honestly, in extreme outdoor survival, your strongest weapon is not your fire starter, not your shelter, not your knife. It's your mind. If your mind breaks, everything else follows. But if your mind endures, your body finds a way. If you want to master survival, don't just train your hands, train your thoughts. Learn calm under pressure. Learn silence. Learn to be alone without collapsing inside. Because in the wild, the difference between those who break and those who don't isn't luck. It's mindset. Stay alert, stay focused, and as always, survive. Don't just exist.